Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Becky DeGrossa with counselingwise.com. Hope you're all doing well this morning. Before we get started, I want to just confirm that folks can hear me okay and see the screen okay. So let's see, Megan, if you can chime in on that, that would be great. Let me know if you can see and hear, and I would appreciate that. I'm going to check here. Just want to make sure that everything's working before I dive into this material today. There's always a little delay. This is a Google Hangouts interface, always a little delay. Okay, good. I see that confirmation from Megan, and so I'm going to just dive in and get going. All right, so today we're going to be talking about what to do if you're not getting results in marketing your private practice. And this is part 2 of a 2-part series, and we're going to talk about analyzing your marketing. So hopefully my screen will be moving. Good. Okay, so as I say, 2-part series. Last week we covered the first part, and today we're covering the second part. Both of these webinars are for those who are attempting to market their practice online, but you're getting sluggish or no results. Okay, so that's really what we're focusing on this time. And the problem that folks are having when they're trying to do this, it's usually very, very obvious to us, but it's not so obvious when it's your own site. And as I said last week, that applies to me as well. There's certain things that I can't see that I'm blind to seeing in my own marketing, and so don't feel bad if you're just not seeing this. You're too close to it. That's the way it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some examples so that you can get a better understanding of what it is that we're talking about here, and we'll just dive into it. So last week what we covered was we talked about, well, if you're getting sluggish results and you've been trying to market, first of all, let's check your niche, okay? Your niche, whatever you want to call it. And are you clear on what it is, and are you positioned correctly? And if any of you were not there and need to see that webinar because you're wondering if this is your problem and you didn't register for that, then just let us know. Send us a note later, and we'll make sure to get you a link to that webinar so that you can check that piece, because that's a very important piece. It doesn't really matter how well you market if your niche is not, 1, positioned well, or 2, if there's no one in that audience that you're trying to reach, okay, if there's not enough people in that audience. So that was the first thing that we covered. So now today what we're going to be talking about is we're going to analyze your marketing itself. So is it implemented correctly? Okay, that's really what we're going to look at. If you've been trying to do this, if you've had a site up for some time, chances are that if you're not getting very many phone calls or clients from this, that you have something wrong with the implementation of your marketing. And so here's a very, very important point, and this is somewhat shocking to a lot of people, and so I want you to get this. If you get nothing else out of this, this is the most important thing to get today. Launching a website in and of itself guarantees you nothing, okay? It guarantees you nothing. A lot of folks think, oh, okay, so I'm going to be in private practice. All I need to do is put up a website and everything's going to be perfect. Phone's going to be ringing, clients are going to be coming in, life's going to be peachy. Okay, that is so not true. And typically, really, the folks that we help are the ones who have been coming or who have already launched one site and maybe even a second one, and it's just not working. And then they realize, oh my gosh, there's more to it than this. Okay, so that is this is the big message. Throwing up a website is not going to do you a thing. You have to actually be strategic about how you do it. And so we're going to help you today. I'm going to help you today look at what you do have up and get some idea. Okay, so what you must have are 2 things. You must have site visitors, traffic. Okay, it's commonly called traffic in the online marketing world for anything to happen. Okay, you can put up a site, if no one sees it, nothing's going to happen. The second thing that you've got to have is you have to have a site that your potential clients can engage with. okay? They have to be able to engage with your site, otherwise they're not going to call you. All right, so there's a terminology in this world called conversion, and to convert a visitor to a phone call, that is something that we're all about. Okay, it doesn't do any good to put up a pretty site and not have it turn into phone calls and clients. So that is the whole point of what we're going to be covering today. All right, so hints that you may have a marketing problem. You've had a site up. Let's say that your niche is well defined, and that it targets a group that exists. Okay, if you're trying to target in a small town, you know, men who have broken up with their partner and are missing the children of that marriage, who are in the age group of 25 to 30, that's probably not going to happen. Okay, it's probably not going to happen. There's probably going to not be enough people in that group that you could market to that are going to come in. Okay, so you would need to be broader in a small town, and in a large city you might be able to do that. Okay, you might be able to get enough clients. But we talk a lot about that niche in the last webinar. So go ahead and watch that if you're wondering about whether your niche is too narrow. All right. So the other thing is that if you've had a website up and you know that you're getting traffic, your phone is still not ringing, you probably have a marketing problem. Okay, so these are the two big red flags. Okay, if your niche is well defined, phone's not ringing, and if you've been up for a while and you're getting traffic, phone's not ringing, most likely you have a marketing problem. So here we go. Let's take a look at your marketing itself. So there are many criteria that must be met in order for your web presence to be effective. So if we were to do a marketing analysis for you, we would examine a ton of things, okay, a ton of things. And I'm going to go through the checkpoints that we normally go through. So first of all, we would look at your traffic and your sources of traffic, okay? And so we're going to look at your Google Analytics. Hopefully you have Google Analytics installed. If you don't, please make that happen on your website. Some people have Stat Counter. It's okay. It's not as good as Google Analytics. Google Analytics is free, and it provides pretty much the most data for any free tool that is out there, a ton of data, okay? So if we were doing it, we would look at Google Analytics. We would look at your organic traffic, which means the traffic that comes from people just typing a term into Google, you know, counselor Dallas, therapist Dallas, counselor for depression Dallas, whatever. I don't know why I'm using Dallas today, but I am. So, so anyway, we would look at your organic traffic, and there's all sorts of things we can tell about that. We'll get into this a little bit more later in the presentation. We would look at paid traffic. If you're paying, if you have AdWords, a Google AdWords campaign running, we would look at the traffic coming from there and see if it's working for you or not, see what we could do to improve that. We would look at referral traffic. That means other websites referring traffic to you. For instance, if you're on Psychology Today directory or goodtherapy.org directory, the traffic that comes from those is called referrals within online marketing terminology. And so we would look at that and see how good is that traffic. Is it staying, or are you perhaps in that directory listing, are you perhaps giving them some idea that you are a depression specialist, but then they get to your site and they see nothing about depression, so they don't stay, okay? So there's all sorts of stuff that we can tell just from looking at your Google Analytics. We can look at how much of your traffic is local. Now, some folks are experts in a certain thing, and they have a lot of content on their site, and they get all this traffic, and none of it is converting. Sometimes we take a look at it, and we say, oh, well, of course, most of it is not from your city. So if you're really just doing face-to-face therapy, then of course you're not going to get clients with this. They're going to come. These people are going to come. They're going to read content on your site, but they're not going to stay. We will also look at that. How long are people staying? What is your bounce rate? Bounce rate is referring to people who come to your site and with a second or two they just bounce off. They go, no, that's not what I was looking for, and they're gone. Okay, many reasons to have a high bounce rate. We'll talk about that a little bit today. We'll also look at your social media traffic. What are you getting from Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., and Google Plus, and is that good traffic for you? We will also give you feedback on your social media properties and on your directory listings to help you improve those. The next thing that we're going to look at is your website itself. Okay? We're going to look at the professionalism of your site. We'll look at the messaging that you have on there, i.e. the copy. That's what it's called typically, is copy. We're going to look at on-page SEO. How is that? Do you have it in place? Is it done correctly? We're going to look at the amount and also the accessibility of content that you have on your site. You need to have a lot of content these days. That's just where it's at. And we're going to look at that, and we're going to also look at, is it accessible to the people who are looking for something? If I come to your site, and I'll just use depression as an example, and I want to find out what you know and how you can help me with depression, I want to see content on that, and I want to see more content on that. So is that content accessible to me easily? The next thing that we're going to look at is list building. And by list building, what I mean is building an email list. And the big question there is, are you doing it, and are you doing it effectively? We will also look at other on-site factors that affect ranking. And I'll talk a little bit more about what those are later, but we will look at that as well. Now, we'll also look at your rankings themselves, look at Google Places listing or listings if you have multiples. We will look at the mobile friendliness or responsiveness of your website. And we will also look at other potential issues. There are some people, believe it or not, very few actually, but there are some that have everything else right, and it's still not working, and it's because they have something that's really getting in the way and tripping them up, such as a canonical URL problem, a duplicate content problem, Google penalties, site performance issues, or they've actually been hacked. They have malware on their site, and so Google's not showing their site anymore. Okay, so this is a lot. Okay, that's a lot of stuff that we cover in a full marketing analysis, and what ends up with that is that you get a 25 to 30-page report, and we do a 30 to 45-minute video that walks you through the whole thing. So obviously today I don't have enough time to go through that whole thing, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the starting things that you need to look for. Okay, the top 3 mistakes that we see over and over and over that therapists make with their marketing. I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to show you how to know whether you have those problems on your own website. I'm going to talk with you about the one thing that your website can't live or rank without. We see this over and over again. I'm also going to talk to you about how to tell what Google Analytics is trying to tell you. Okay, how do you look at it and see what you need to see in the data? And it's actually pretty simple. You can get pretty detailed with it, but there's a high-level thing that you can look at to know what the message is, what the high-level message is. And then I'm going to talk with you about how you can tell very easily if you have a performance problem or not on your website. Okay, very easy. There's just a tool that you can use to see. And performance, what I mean by that, a performance problem is if your site is loading really slowly, and if that's potentially what's causing a problem, why people are leaving, because they're having to wait forever for every page to load, and they don't have patience. Okay, ADD is rampant in our society today, and it's about 10 times as strong online. So if you have a slow loading site, that's going to be a problem for you. So I'll show you how to check that. All right, so here we go. We're going to dive into this. Take notes. Also know that if you want to watch the replay of this later and just kind of pause the video as you go through each of these and check your own site to see where you stand, you can do that. Okay, if you registered for this, if you're here today, you will automatically get the replay here. So, problem 1 of 3 of the most common, not following the 1-second rule. Okay, and if you've been on my webinars before, you know that the 1-second rule is that the potential client should be able to immediately see what you do. Okay, should immediately be able to see what you do. So, here's an example of the wrong way to do it. And I use this website that I just found randomly on Psychology Today as an example last week. The wrong way to do it here is to just have a bunch of general stuff on your site. You know, it's like, you know, thank you for visiting our site and considering counseling and psychotherapy needs at yada, yada, yada. They don't talk about what they do. There is nothing that jumps out that says we treat, depression, anxiety, couples, whatever. So this is like the wrong way to do it. Now, the right way to do it is, as I showed you last week, to have a navigation bar at the very top of your site that actually has the issues that you specialize in right there, front and center, for your potential clients to choose from. They can click on those. They can go on a page that talks specifically to those issues, and they're off and running. Okay? An example for a group practice is one like this. This could actually be done for anybody, but often group practices have tons of specialties and different populations they treat. And so this is a really good, easily navigable way for a larger site to present the populations they work with and have people just be able to click on adults and then see under that everything that they specialize in when it comes to adults or whatever population they're interested in. Okay? So that's the first thing. Problem 2 of 3 is to not have your niches or specialties marketed well. Okay? That's the second problem. So the first one is not having them immediately visible. The second most common problem is not having them marketed well. And what I mean by that is what you should have is a separate page for each specialty. Okay? A separate page for each specialty. On each one of those pages, you should have a fully developed marketing message, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that here in a second. And we're talking, fully developed here. We're saying that each message should be 700 to 1,000 words in order to give you a chance to rank. And it's not just ranking either. It's actually for you to connect with that client and present yourself as an expert. All right? So here is why. You want specific pages, because the first little signal here is what Google hears on most sites. So if we were to go back to that site that I found on Psychology Today, it's very, very dim, the signal, right? It says, oh, we do counseling and therapy, and there's one link for EMDR, and there's really nothing, no page that stands out and says to Google, this is a page about depression counseling in Dallas, okay? There's a very, very faint signal. The next signal here, you can tell, is about twice as big. And this is if you actually applied SEO to a typical site structure. So if we went into that site, or even to one that's architected a little better than that, and after the fact we applied SEO to it, we are going to have a stronger signal to Google as to what it's about and maybe get ranked a little bit more, but it's still going to not be very strong, okay? So the last signal is 4 times as large. Each page is 4 times as large, sending out a huge signal, and those are very specific pages that we plan out in advance, and we say, okay, on this site we're going to have a page on anxiety counseling or anxiety treatment or whatever in Dallas, one on depression, one on couples counseling, one on trauma, whatever. And we plan that out in advance. We write very specific content. We have the SEO built in. We have the architecture built in. And let me show you what I mean about strong content. So the wrong way to do it, again, is to have no specific pages. The second wrong way to do it, okay, the second wrong way is, this site has a specific page for couples psychotherapy, but the content is pretty slim, okay, sparse, not a whole lot of content. At least there's a separate page, so that's great, and at least if Google is to look at this page, they're going to say, okay, look, there's a bunch of stuff in here that typically applies to people who are having relationship difficulties. We'll say that this is a relevant page. What Google will also say, however, is, not a lot of content. This website and this page on this website is most likely skimming the surface of the subject. Okay, so if they were given this page against a well-developed page, they're gonna rank the well-developed page over this one. Okay, but this would clearly rank above a website that doesn't have a specialty page on couples. Okay, so this is I'm calling it the second wrong way because it's short. It's actually well above the other page, but it's still nothing compared to the right way to do it, okay? So the right way to do it is to have a couples page that is fully developed. Now, there's even another screen here to show you, but this is, this is a well-developed message. Are you dissatisfied with your relationship? Are you feeling lonely, anxious, invisible around your partner, longing for more attention, affection, or closeness? Has communication become tense or volatile or alternatively non-existent? And, it just mirrors back to the person immediately what it is that they're going through. It goes through everything they could possibly be thinking about their issues with relationship and about the idea of coming to couples therapy. Now, over here on the right side of the page, you're going to see that we even address their objections, okay? So anyone who's looking at coming to therapy, engaging in therapy, they are scared, right? We know that. They're scared. And so you want to paint a good picture for them, obviously, about how this could be really helpful, but you also want to address those fears. That's what this objection section is all about. So, you may still have questions or concerns. And then we call out what those questions are. In this case, it's, I think we desperately need help, but my partner's closed off to the idea. Or, gosh, this could take up a lot of time and it isn't cheap. I'm not sure if I could do this. And then the last page on this, the last part of this message here is, I'm afraid that, this could end it for us, right? This could really highlight everything that's wrong with us and make it worse. So they're thinking this anyway, right? They're thinking this anyway. For you to not address it, that keeps that issue lingering and it keeps them from coming in. So my feeling about the whole thing is it's much better to bring it up and address it. And then here we have a call to action at the bottom. You always want to have a call to action. This one is, it's okay. Schedule a consultation today. I think that's okay. I would much rather see a different call to action, which is to download a free report. Okay, I really would. And the reason is that if I'm coming here and I'm looking for a couples counselor and I'm scared and I don't know if my partner's going to be on board or not and all that good stuff, I still am probably going to be too afraid to take action right away. So if this person, she actually does have a free report, but she doesn't call it out down here. But if she had a free report that said something like, do you really need couples counseling or is this normal relationship ups and downs, right? I would probably download that. That's a very low risk action for me to take. And if I do download that report, I'm now on her mailing list, and then she can actually market to me, right? She can show up in my inbox once a month with some great blog post on, how to resolve a communication issue, or some research on how couples counseling really does help, or something like that, right? And she's going to stay top of mind for me until I'm ready to actually take action and come in and do something about this problem. But if she doesn't capture my email with a free report, then, game's over pretty much. I don't know if I'm ever going to remember that I was on this site and that this message was that strong and it really made an impact on me. So that is the call to action that I would recommend. So this is what I'm talking about with a long, fully developed marketing message. That's a lot. And I do want to bring up, I'm anticipating your objections right now. I already know what your objections are. Well, will people really read that much? I don't like reading that much when I'm on a website. I don't want to write all that. I don't think anyone's going to read it. Okay? So my answer to that is that yes, they will. They definitely will read it if, in fact, this is their issue. And if, in fact, your content is just dead on with what they're going through, they will be glued to these pages, actually. Okay? That is what we know. And the way we know that is because when we start helping people implement these messages that are really detailed and just spot on with what people are feeling, that the visitors can get to right away, what we see is that the time on site increases tremendously. It doubles, okay? So we know that people are staying and reading. So the data is there. The data is showing that we're right on this one. So whatever preconceived notions you have about, I want a simple site, I don't want them to have to scroll, I want one little paragraph that very simply explains who I am and what I do, you might want to rethink that. okay, because the data does not show that that is effective at all. All right, so it's a long message, it is, and it's really what is required to get traction with these visitors and to get them to actually eventually call you and come in, okay? So problem 3 of the 3 most common is not building a list. Now, I've already talked about that quite a bit, okay? And I want to give you the statistics behind that. The commonly accepted sales stats throughout any industry is that only 2% of quote-unquote buyers buy on the first exposure. So again, what I was just saying, if I'm that person who's looking for a couples counselor and I'm going to come to a site and I'm going to read a message, even if that message is really, really well written, there's only 2% chance that I'm going to actually say, okay, I'm going to schedule a call right now, okay, and become a client for that therapist. That's pretty low odds, right? But the data is that 80% of quote-unquote buyers buy after exposure 8 through 12. So this is why you really want to capture an email, because then you can be the one who can control the number of exposures. If you capture their email, you can continue to send them information, and eventually they are going to do it, okay? So again, 80% of clients come in after they've been exposed to you many, many times. And you don't want to leave that to chance. If you capture their email, you can control that. All you have to do is, as I said, send a blog post every month. It's very easy to do. You should be blogging every month anyway, so you should have something to send them. And we have all sorts of information about how to do that on our website, how to do that very easily, how to not have to do extra work every month to send something to your list. So that it's actually, if you set it up correctly and you plan correctly, it's very simple to do. Now, the wrong way to do this is, if we look at the site, we can see that there's no opt-in, okay? And again, this is a randomly chosen site. I'm so sorry, Kay Colbert, if you're on and if you're offended, just randomly chose this site off of Psychology Today. So no opt-in here. She's not capturing any emails. She doesn't have the ability. Now, this person is thinking ahead. Like, she's actually saying, hey, subscribe to my newsletter, okay? So the problem is it's the second wrong way to do it because there's no lure, okay? And by a lure, what I mean is offering them something that they want. People today, you know, this approach used to work, okay? It used to work about 5 years ago, where people go, oh, look at this person, she looks nice, she has some good stuff on here, I think I might want to subscribe to her newsletter. People don't do that anymore, okay? There's too many newsletters. So you really actually need to give them something that they want so that they get on your list. And here's an example of that. This is a grief counseling site, and there's a very well-written message. I only have a very small part of it here. But then there's a free report, you know, finding relief from the roller coaster of grief, okay? And so there's something that's right there. I want that. I'm going to put in my first name and email, and I'm going to get it. You don't have to ask for first name. Often it's helpful to do so, but you could just ask for the email, and that will even improve your opt-in rate better. It just depends on how you want to do it. But this is the right way to do it. You want a report, and you want it right there. We don't want this report on another page, right? We want it on the grief counseling page. So where you present these things, the site layout is very, very important as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is we just covered the top 3 most common things. What I'm going to talk about next is the #1 thing your website can't live without, and who knows what that is. I want you to think about that for a minute. You should know what that is by now, but it is a blog, okay? It's a blog. And the reason is that there is a lack of engagement with your visitors if you don't have a blog, and also you are going to have a very, very hard time ranking in any medium to large size city if you do not have a blog and generate a lot of content on your site. This is the biggest problem I'm seeing with, there's some folks that have done a great job in creating these sites that are professional looking and well laid out and all that good stuff, but it's like an Achilles heel. I mean, they aren't going to get anywhere because they don't have a way to easily add content. It's just a shame. So why do blogs matter? Well, here's a statistic from HubSpot. Any website that has a blog you get 6 times more leads. Okay, if your site can grow and become large, you get 6 times more traffic, more folks calling you than a very small static site. And I did a webinar on this topic on blogging, I don't know, a couple months ago. And there was a company that did a study in the plastic surgery niche, actually, and they came up with the top, I don't remember, 200 and something sites in plastic surgery that were ranking throughout all major metro areas, and they talked about the number of pages they had, which was about 8 times the number of pages as the average plastic surgeon site. So the same thing holds true in therapy. Here's a quick check. I just searched on Psychotherapist Boulder, where I live, and I removed the outliers because, of course, there's Psychology Today and things like that. But the top 10 averaged 139 pages. The next 10 averaged 94 pages. And then the next 10, like these are on page 3 now, average 63 pages, right? So this is data that shows you that the size of your site matters. It matters a lot in terms of ranking. So don't ever, and there are companies still doing this. There's companies in our niche that are building websites for therapists that do not have blogs, and it is like the biggest disservice I've ever seen. So don't get caught up in that. Don't get caught up in, this is a simple way to do this site. I'm going to do this. It's nice and it's pretty and it's easy. If you don't have a blog, you might as well just, you're not going to rank. You're not going to get traffic. So there's that. That's the number one issue that you need to really address. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into how to go ahead and look at your Google Analytics and to see if what it's trying to tell you, basically. Okay, so I have 2 examples here. We do a lot of marketing analysis, so we have a lot of data. So the first example, you can see that this person in 1 month period has received almost 2,000 visitors. Now, let me tell you that is a ton, or 2,000 visits, 1,500 something visitors. That is a ton of visitors for a local therapy site, first of all. So if you aren't getting anywhere near that, do not worry. Really, we'd like to see it around 250, something like that minimum. If you can get more, especially if you're group practice and you can get more, it's a big deal. But for the average sole proprietor, getting to 250 is probably good enough. You need to convert some of that traffic, right? This is why we talk so much about the website and how it's laid out, and that you have really strong content and all that good stuff, because you could have all the visitors in the world and it doesn't matter. Now, this site wasn't laid out very well, and as you can see, people weren't staying very long. They're staying for an average of 1 minute and 4 seconds. That's not very long. Okay, that's pretty short on average. The bounce rate is very high. It's 80%, almost 81%. So that means a lot of people came. They said, I don't know how to find anything I'm looking for here. This is too hard. See you later. And they're out of there in 1 to 2 seconds. Okay, so this is just high-level data that you can tell by looking at your own Google Analytics. How many visits? How many unique visitors? And how long are they staying? Are they hanging around? I mean, we'd love to see it 2 minutes to 4 minutes. Okay, and typically what we do find is that once we help people with these well-written marketing messages and very accessible content, that it does jump from 2 to 4 minutes. Okay, but if you're below that, you know that you have an engagement problem, and if your bounce rate's high. Now, the other thing to look at is this person is in New Jersey. We looked at cities that are near her, her city and bordering towns. And so out of that, 1,800 visits, only 262 of them are local, okay, are actually within driving distance to her. So her overall local traffic isn't bad, okay, but she still has a problem because they get to her site and they can't really understand where they're supposed to go and how to read what they want to read about to know if she can really help them, so they're bouncing. All right, so just some insight there to Google Analytics. Here's another example. And in this one, we have a therapist who has much less traffic. She only has 157 visitors, or visits, 119 unique visitors. And it would certainly be great to have a little more, right? I mean, it would be great if in her case, her SEO wasn't done very well, and so she wasn't getting as much traffic as she could get, and that is fixable, and she can certainly get up there and get more traffic, get the numbers she should be getting. The good news for her is that they seem to be staying around when they get there, right? So they're staying there, they're seeing 2.5 pages on average, over 2-minute duration, and look at her bounce rate, right? Compared to 81%, hers is only like 53%. And this is typical. I mean, if you get a bounce rate in the 40s and 50s, you're doing really well. Your website, once it's online for the world to see. Who knows what's going to bring it? You may have some, you may have something on your about page that says that you were born in Trona, California or something, and someone searching on Trona, California may end up on your website, and obviously they're not in your town looking for a therapist, so they're going to bounce. That's a typical example, right? That happens all the time. So you're always going to have a bounce rate, but if it's between 40 and 50%, then that's great. It means you're attracting very relevant traffic, they're engaging with your site, they're staying, and life is good. This person is in the Denver area, and only 41 of her how many were there? 119 unique visitors were local. Okay, and so that's okay. That's fine. She's, that's a pretty good chunk. So if her SEO can improve and she can get more people who are coming, we know they're already resonating and staying. So her problem is a lot easier to solve than someone whose site is just not laid out well. All right, so those are just some tips. Go ahead and look at your Google Analytics. Go ahead and take a peek at your visitors, how long they're staying, what your bounce rate is, and how many local visitors you're getting. You look under acquisition, and then you look under geography, and then you look for your cities, and you'll find out how many local people are visiting. Okay, so the next thing that we see quite a bit is that people have performance issues on their site. And so I'm going to show you how you can check to see if you have a performance issue. There's a website called GTmetrix, metrix.com. All you have to do is go there, put your URL in the field there that it asks for at the top, and then just hit enter, and it will scan your site, and it'll come back and it'll tell you a couple of very important things, okay? In this case, it's telling us, I just did Yahoo as a site, it's telling us that the page speed gets a B. You want to shoot for an A or a B in page speed. And then it's telling us that page load time here is 3.56 seconds, okay? So, 3.5 seconds. You really want to shoot for no more than 2 to 3 seconds, ideally. So if an A or a B in page load in 2 to 3 seconds would be great. If people have to wait too long, we see a lot of sites that are like taking like 11 to 15 seconds, which is like an eternity online, right? We can tell immediately in Google Analytics that there's something wrong because the bounce rate is really high, okay? That's something that really drives people away from your site. No one has patience. So they aren't going to wait around for your slow site to load. So if you check this and your page load speed is terrible, then you're really going to need to do something with that. You really want to shoot for 2 to 3 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go through what we've covered here. Wow, I've been zipping through it pretty quick. There's a lot that we've gone through. So what I've covered here is the stuff that is in black. I did not have time, obviously, to cover that which is in red. So we've talked about Google Analytics and organic traffic. I don't have time on here to talk a whole lot about paid traffic and referrals. We have talked about how much is local, how long people are staying, bounce rate. We haven't had time to talk about social media traffic. Haven't had time to tell you how to look at your social media properties and determine what else you need to do, and how to look at your directory listings and figure out what you need to do there. As far as your website, professionalism we didn't talk about directly, but I did talk a lot about messaging and copy. Didn't have time to get into on-page SEO. That's a very detailed topic there. I talked a lot about amount, some about accessibility of content, but there's more that we look at in terms of, is the right content being presented at the right time? Okay, not just the free report, but also potential blog posts where those being shown. We talked a little bit about list building, how to do it effectively, how to tell if you are or not, and don't have time at all to get into other on-site factors that affect ranking. Okay, there are some other kind of technical things that can really trip you up in terms of ranking. Didn't have time to get into that. Don't have time to talk about rankings, Google Places. I did a webinar on that a couple months ago. So we covered that pretty thoroughly, but if you're thinking that Google Places is one of your problems, you may want us to take a look at that. Mobile friendliness or responsiveness of your site. Don't have time to talk about that. And then, of course, there's these other potential issues. They only apply to certain people, but, you know, canonical URL, duplicate content, penalties, site performance, malware, getting into all the details on that. Okay, didn't have time to talk about that. But what you can do with the starter set of things that I shared with you is, again, go ahead and go through your own marketing and look at all of these things and be honest in your assessment. Okay, this is the part where when you don't know anything, it's going to be very hard for you to be able to look at it and say, I think I have a problem, or gosh, why aren't people staying, right? It's hard to see it. But now that you know how to look at your site, go ahead and go through each one of these and really be honest in your assessment. Now, if you're making any of the 3 most common mistakes that I've talked to, or if you don't have a blog, which is a true Achilles heel here, then this is why we created the Smart Therapy Websites program, okay? So if you are tripping up on those things, then you may be interested in that program, and you can go ahead and go to that link there, counselingwise.com/smart, because that program from the get-go addresses all 4 of those issues, the 3 most common mistakes and the lack of a blog. Okay, we planned it in from the beginning. It's already there. So go ahead and check that out if that's where you're falling down. Okay, now this this analysis stuff can be a little complicated and technical at times. So we do have this marketing analysis, of course, right? We have been selling this for $197. It takes us about 5 hours of work, so it's like a darn good deal. And we're doing a lot of them, and it is like people are they just love them. They love it because they have some outsider who looks at their stuff and says, I would do, if this were my site, I would do A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, that's what I would do. I would fix this way. And it's an extremely highly appreciated piece of work that we do. So we used to sell that, or we have, and we currently are selling it for $197. We are going to increase that price. Okay, so this last price is only good until this Sunday night, because it's a lot of work, and we are basically saying we can't do it for that anymore. So we are going to increase it to $247 on Monday. We're raising that price $50. So if you are interested in having us do your full marketing analysis, if you think, that there's something on your site that you can't tell yourself, and you just want somebody else to look at it and give you the full deal, then go ahead and order that, because the price is going to go up on Monday. If you want us to do that for you, go to counselingwise.com/marketing-analysis, okay? Marketing analysis. That's where you need to go to order that if you want to order that. All right? So hopefully this information was helpful for you, and if you want to grab that, go ahead and do it. If there is something that you want to talk to me about, if you have a question about whether that is really the best thing that you should do at this point in time, or maybe you should just jump into the Smart Therapy Websites program, feel free to go to our website. Just go to counselingwise.com. Bottom right, a Let's Talk box pops up. Set a time to discuss. You can schedule a half-hour free consult with me, and I can talk with you about what's going on for you with your marketing and help you figure out what the best thing to do is. Okay, now I'm going to open it up for questions. I just wanted to get through all of that because it was a lot of material. I'm going to open this up now for questions, and if you've been pondering any of your questions, then feel free to go ahead and type them in here. Okay, let me make this so that we can see what the questions are. Okay, so we have a question, Rebecca. Do you just show me how to fix things, or does your group actually fix it? And can you teach me how to go national? Yes, definitely we can. And we can fix it, and we can also show you how to fix it. It just depends on whether you want to do it yourself or whether you want us to do it. Yes, can also help you figure out how to go national. I think you were on last week, and we talked about that a little bit. I'm going to go down here and make sure I'm not missing. Carol says, I've been cutting out. I don't know why. I don't know if it's on your end or not, Carol. If anyone else has had me cutting out on them, go ahead and say that. I don't think so, but I don't know. You could listen to the replay too, Carol, and that should be clean. Okay, question for later. Does Google Analytics filter out my own visits to my site? Alex, question. Very good question. If you set it up so that it does, it will. Okay, so there's actually a way in Google Analytics to filter out your own visits based on IP address. And so just Google that and they will tell you how to do that, how to not count your own visits. Let's see. Someone, Kelly, should you pay for SEO? Boy, isn't that a long conversation. Let's see. Okay, so should you pay for SEO? Well, I would say yes, because it's usually too technical for most people to do on their own, most therapists to do on their own anyway. However, Kelly, make sure that whoever it is that you are paying is a very ethical person, okay, and is not doing any black hat SEO. Every month we see more and more. I mean, we have some group practices that were cranking, making a ton of money, okay, because they were ranking really well, but they started doing bad SEO and it killed them, okay. They are hurting. They are having to get rid of their therapist because they can't bring in business. So yes, I think you should pay for SEO if you don't know how to do it yourself. A lot of it is very good on-page SEO. That's what you need to do and create a lot of content, but don't pay the wrong people to do it or you will regret it. It's going to cost you about $2,000 to $3,000 to fix the problems that they are creating for you if they're doing it incorrectly. If you have questions on that, get a hold of me because I can tell pretty quickly whether you have a bad SEO problem or not. Jim, is the marketing analysis part of the Smart Therapy Websites program or should it be purchased separately? Good question. I could pretty much tell by looking at your site whether we would recommend a full marketing analysis or not, Jim, or whether we would just recommend that you pop into the Smart Therapy Websites program. Not to be disrespectful, but if your site is a disaster, and I don't know who you are, so I'm certainly not implying that it is. If it's a disaster, I'm going to probably say, hey man, save your money. Save the $200 on the marketing analysis. Just go get it fixed and pop in here. If it's salvageable, okay, if there's a lot of stuff that we could, if it's really strong and there's just a couple of things wrong, I'm going to say let's do a marketing analysis and then maybe you're going to be able to fix it and not have to create a new site. So hopefully that is helpful there. Tracy, sites like WordPress and Squarespace claim to have basic SEO built in. What's your experience and opinion on this? Okay, so no sites have SEO built in. None. Zero. Nada. Zilch. Okay, however, some platforms make it easier to add SEO to them. Okay, they have the structure in there in order for you to be able to add it yourself. Okay, so WordPress is that case. I just looked at a Squarespace site yesterday actually. Eric called from Philadelphia, has a very nice Squarespace site. However, word on the street is there are some SEO limitations for Squarespace. There certainly are SEO limitations for Wix and Weebly, at least in the blogging parts. Wix, bigger problems than that. Squarespace supposedly has some SEO limitations. So I haven't dug into Squarespace myself, but Eric, who's pretty tech savvy and knows quite a bit, said that there are some limitations. So again, no one has SEO built in. They are more SEO capable than other platforms. But WordPress has something called the Yoast plugin, which makes SEO very, very easy for people who know what they're doing. And so that is why we develop our sites in WordPress. Megan says no issues over here. That must be about the cutting out part. So Jane is asking, so the analysis comes with a video. Is that video available online or is it custom made? It is custom made, so it's a 25 to 35 minute video that is walking through your analysis data specific to you, talking to you about every piece of it, and talking through the recommendations. Okay, and so that's what it is. And it is uploaded to YouTube as a private video so that no one else can see it, but we send you not only the written information on the marketing analysis, the 25 to 30 pages of stuff, but we also send you this video, and then we also allow you to have a free half-hour consult afterwards to ask any questions about all that good stuff that we have talked with you about in that. Okay, so let's see. Someone is asking, Jim, in terms of therapist site management, WordPress versus Joomla. Okay, very good question, Jim. Boy, Jim, you're kind of a techie guy there, aren't you? Okay, so WordPress versus Joomla. Let me tell you the pros and cons. WordPress and Joomla are both what we call CMSs, content management systems. Drupal is another one. All three of them are very well respected in terms of content management systems. However, Joomla and Drupal both are more expensive to find good developers for, okay? So WordPress is kind of like the iPhone, or well, at least what the iPhone used to be until Samsung started eating their lunch, but kind of the most popular platform out there, okay? So there's tons of developers who know WordPress. There's tons of plugins available free on WordPress, and you're going to be able to get support, technical support. Maybe you don't care, Jim. Maybe you're a techie guy yourself. But you're going to get WordPress support much less expensively than Joomla. In fact, I have a group practice that we're working with right now that had a site built in Joomla, and they are now having us redo it in WordPress because they can't seem to ever find the support they need on Joomla, even simple stuff like upgrading a version. Okay, so that is why I would recommend WordPress. Whether you use us or not, whoever you use, you're going to be able to get good help less expensively, more readily available. Carol, what's your opinion about using anonymous testimonials on therapist sites? Very good question. So my opinion is this. Obviously, it is not ethical, according to the ACA and the APA and everyone else, to solicit testimonials from clients. However, some therapists choose to use unsolicited, anonymous testimonials on their site. Don't solicit even if you're going to use them anonymously, because you could lose your license over that. But if people, let's say someone sends you a thank you card. You didn't solicit it, but they wrote something in there really nice, and it wouldn't identify them. That is your call as to whether to use it or not. The ACA says just don't solicit. They don't say you can't use anonymous ones, unsolicited ones. So that's your call. There are some, if you do, here's what I would suggest you do. I would suggest on that, near that testimonial, you say, these are unsolicited testimonials, and nothing you ever share with your therapist would be used to identify you. Okay, something like that. The risk you run with using any client testimonials at all is that people can go on your site and they could think, oh gosh, if I go see this person, are they going to be putting what I say on their website? Okay, so that's the risk you run, which is why you want to make sure that it appears safe when you do use those. What you can do, Carol, and what I typically advise is that you get testimonials from peers, from a supervisor, from a fellow therapist, from a referral source who is a doctor or somebody like that. And they can use their name, which makes the testimonial much stronger. If they're professional, they have credibility because of the credentials, and there you go, okay? Glynis, I'm getting 6K visitors per month with my Yola website, which is set up well as per your guidelines. I have an 80% bounce rate and only 3% local search. How can marketing analysis help me with this? Okay, 6K visitors. If this is a local site, Glynis, then my guess is you're getting spammed like crazy from China or Russia or some other place. If you only have 3% local, there's something going on where you're being targeted. It's not normal for people to get 6,000 visitors per month, especially if you're a local. If you are a national sex therapist or something like that, we've done a lot of work with sex therapists. They get tons of Middle Eastern people going to their sites. Think of the most repressed sexually, populations, and those people gravitate to those sites. If that's not your niche, then we probably need to take a look at that. You're probably getting spammed like heck. So that is something that the marketing analysis would in fact help with, and you probably have a problem there. Probably have a malware problem. Let's see. Okay. So I am not seeing any other questions in the queue. So this will be the last call for questions. If you have one, please feel free to put it in and I will answer. Okay. All right, Glynis, you're saying that you offer phone counseling across North America. You probably still have a problem. Okay, you probably still have a problem. When you say 3% local, is that 3% in the United States, or is that in your city? I'm not sure what local is if you're a national resource, but I would still say you have a problem. There's something going on there, and we could take a look at that for you. Okay, last call for questions. Again, this marketing analysis, if you would like us to do a full analysis for you, it's still at the current price of $197 until midnight this Sunday. Okay, we're going into spring break, so we're just telling you guys, hey, if you want it, make a decision and grab it. It's going to go up to $50 on Monday, and it'll be more, but it'll still be worth it, but you might as well get it cheaper if you think you need it. Okay, that's your city, Glennis. Okay. Kelly, do you offer SEO services or have recommendations? Yes, we definitely offer SEO services. We have some great success stories in that area in terms of traffic charts that have improved quite a bit when people have done SEO with us. And so we definitely have those services and can help you out with that, Kelly. Okay, we are getting really close here. One last call. If there's any other questions, feel free to type them in, and I'm happy to answer. I'm happy to stay 4 more minutes here and answer any questions. If there are no questions, then I'm going to call it a day. Last chance. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to call it a day. So go ahead and grab the marketing analysis if you want it. If you know that you want the Smart Therapy Websites program already, just go to counselingwise.com/smart, and you can probably fix most of your problems right there. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody, for attending. Really appreciate it. This, again, was one of our most popular. I think we hit 200 people here, so that's awesome. And I really appreciate all your questions. Great questions today. And we will talk to you in April. That'll be our next webinar, and I believe that it's going to be on Google AdWords. So I'll see you then. Becky DeGrossa, counselingwise.com, over and out. Bye-bye.